Oh my gosh, Abby, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having this conversation. This is personal to share your fertility story, and I really honor the path you've walked and honored that you worked with me, and because of you, I want to give you a big thank you for inspiring the transfer prep sessions that I've now created to help others. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to speak with you.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So much has happened in your life. Um, I kind of am thinking I'd like you to take us back to the start of your fertility path. We'll get to the part when you booked a call with me and, where I could support you as you're moving into an embryo transfer. But maybe just for everyone listening, if you could share a little bit about like who you are. I know you're here in Colorado. We connected, and as you were wanting to become a mom, I think for your first child, and I'll let you speak, but it was pretty relatively easy for you.
Yeah, with my son, we got pregnant relatively quickly. So I'll just, give you a little bit more background. I'm a dentist, and honestly, when you're in professional school, you kind of put things on hold in terms of fertility, and that's what I did. I was pursuing my career, and
Mhm.
I got married right after dental school. I didn't want to have kids right away. I wanted to wait. And so we waited about 4 years. So I was 30 when I had my first son. And, postpartum was really hard for me. That was a really hard thing. And I just thought, I'm done. I'm just one and done. I don't want to
Okay.
do this again. Um, but then something shifted and I decided, maybe we should try to have another.
Mhm.
And we tried and actually got pregnant relatively quickly.
Mhm.
And I lost that baby at 8 weeks.
Oh.
Yeah. And for anyone who knows what that's like to lose um, a baby, it's a lot. It drains you.
Mm.
It brings you to your knees and just
Mm.
it was really hard. It was really, really hard. And then it was hard to start trying again too. You guard your heart. It's
Mhm.
painful. So I gave myself a lot of grace and we eventually started trying again. I got pregnant again 6 months later, and that was a chemical pregnancy that, I lost. I was basically pregnant for a weekend and I lost that one. And it was kind of at that point that I just said, okay, I'm just going to trust my gut. Something's not right here.
Mm.
And maybe it's my age, but then I need to know kind of what's going on.
Mhm.
So we pursued other fertility treatments here in Fort Collins. We did IUI and timed intercourse, and um, those all were unsuccessful.
Mhm.
And I just think emotionally, I was just done. I just thought I can't keep month after month feeling the loss, even just not conceiving
Mhm.
for 1 month. It feels like a loss. And you start to wonder, what's wrong with me?
Mhm.
I- Is there something I am doing wrong in my life, just in terms of nutrition or exercise or any of that? And
Mhm.
Um, so we made the decision, my husband and I made the decision that we were gonna pursue IVF, and I wanted the best in Colorado.
Mhm.
So I called conceptions and we were able to get in with Dr. Green relatively quickly and did all the workup. And he diagnosed me with endometriomas. Technically, they can't be diagnosed unless you have surgery. But who's going to go into, I don't know if they would ever do that, go into like an ovary and look for it. But
Yeah.
um, so that was it. Actually, it kind of gave me a sense of peace. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
know that something was not right. And um, we pursued IVF. This was actually all transpiring last summer. We did the egg retrieval, and when everything was said and done, we thankfully had two embryos that were both, chromosomally normal,
Mhm.
genetically normal.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so that's kind of how the whole thing started, and
You were
how we
about 33, I think, at this time, right?
yeah, I was 33 when we were pursuing all this, and then we transferred in October. We transferred October 31st. But I met with you October 30th,
I love
the
that.
day before the transfer. I remember everything was just transpiring for Halloween, and
Oh, wow.
I think people get spooked about transferring on Halloween.
Oh,
But I wasn't. I was like, this is gonna be all good vibes
I
here.
love that. Yeah. And so before our call, and you had shared with me something that really stuck with me, that IVF, you said, follows a season of loss. And
Mhm.
it's a time of like really, it's a sad time and hardship. And you'd been through a lot, you'd been through some losses and decided to kind of shift.
Mhm.
And when you and I had chatted recently, telling me about you just need the decision to shift to more of a season of joy,
Yeah. Yeah.
approaching this path differently.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So I actually, I'll just back up a little bit. After I had my son, I had really bad postpartum anxiety, and I had hired a therapist who has been with me now for 4 years, and she's wonderful. And so she's been on this journey with me too. And one of the things that we talked about in one of our sessions was shifting our mindset. And I just think I had just been in this rut of grief and loss and feeling sadness and, quite frankly, overwhelm with all of it. And one of the things that she kind of talked to me about was shifting my focus to seeing this journey as this IVF journey as a journey of joy instead of one of grief and loss. And I think that was a huge mindset shift. And
Mm.
then I met with you, we kind of dive deeper into that, and you kind of helped me welcome some of the, I don't know, just some of the more intricate thoughts associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
um
Oh gosh, I know. And for those listening who are like, okay, so what do you cover in like these sessions in a transfer prep session? Like it's so personal to wherever the person is at and wherever kind of your head is at, you
yeah,
know? And it is a deep dive into kind of uncovering what is the story maybe we're telling ourselves through this and how can we lean into this. And you really stepped into kind of that knowing, your knowing.
yeah, yeah,
Knowing
yeah.
that you be a mom, I know no matter what, or be okay. I should be okay. You were a mom. You were a mom to a little, what, 2-year-old at the time, right? Or how old was your
So when
little?
we first started trying, yeah, he was 2.5, and
Okay.
yes, and yeah, I would then when we were going through IVF, he was 3.
3.
And
Okay.
he just
And like, yeah, tapping back into that joy and you shared with me some of the gratitude, just shifting all that focus, right?
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's different. I suffered from secondary infertility, and I think one of the things that really um, I learned through all of this was not to miss the moment, not to miss what is already going on in your life. There's so much to be grateful for, even if you don't have a child yet. There's so much to be grateful for in life. And I think I spent so much time in those months of trying and wanting a second that I think I missed moments with my first that I'll never get back.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's my message for women going through this is don't miss where you're at now. Even if you're trying for the first time and or pursuing IVF and you don't have another kid, you won't get this time with your significant other back. And I just think it's important to savor the things in life,
That's such
whatever
an
is going
important.
on. Yeah, whatever is going on for you right now, just take a step back and look at it and say, where's the beauty? What's the gift here? What can I learn? How can I be present in this moment, even though maybe it's a moment of suffering? What can I be grateful for?
That's like, that is such an important message. I mean, a lot of people hear that, kind of tap into that gratitude, but it really does matter, right? It shifts that energy, and even just the opportunity to do IVF, right? So many of us
Mhm.
in this space, the chance that we get to try, right, through this process, and there's no guarantees, as we know.
Mhm.
And thank you for just opening up so vulnerably, because it's like you've been through that season of loss and heartbreak, which I don't know, loss of pregnancy loss. We only had our one embryo, and that's all I know. And, but just your message of finding joy kind of in the waiting along the way on your path to motherhood.
Yeah.
It's so key. As you shared with me, it's like the first lesson of parenting, right?
It is. It really is that you have to give up control, because really with parenting, you have no control. And if you try to gain control, you won't have it because
Right.
they're children. They're their own being. They're themselves, and they're not for us to control. And so I
Hmm.
think even on this journey to motherhood, it's it's learning to kind of let go of that control. And I think for me, it was finding a provider who I trusted, who I knew was one of the best, was very data driven, research driven, knew all those
Hmm.
things. So I didn't have to know them, because I
Hmm.
am very data driven, very research driven.
Yeah.
And so just kind of letting go and just trusting that, okay, my team that I've chosen, they've got this. I need to focus on where I am mentally and where I am emotionally, how I'm talking to myself, the words
Hmm.
I'm saying to myself,
Hmm.
how I'm experiencing all of this, whether it's, shifting from a place of I'm scared to a place of this is so great. I get to try this. I
Yeah,
I don't take that for granted. IVF is a privilege,
it is.
and
Hmm.
not a privilege that many women get to try. And so you have to focus on what you have, what's available.
I'm glad you're talking about building your team. And you and I both have the same doctor. He is very data driven. And I appreciate that so much too, just knowing the science. And so, talking about kind of control, in one way, that was one way that you tapped into your feeling of control, was choosing who your team was and how you were going to approach this path. And so I really like
Mhm.
admire you for kind of like taking back your power a little bit in this,
Yeah.
like something needed to shift. And so you built your people around you, and you reached out. I think just sent a message to me. Was it through Instagram, right? And just like,
I think
or
it
was it?
was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
made an Instagram message, and um, I I really honor those of you who do seek support. And I mean, as you know, it's tough. You don't want to go through this alone, like this
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you reached out and you wanted that support, and I had the availability, and I was like, yeah, let's book a call. And can you share a little bit? I mean, I have a few notes of some of the things that we did talk about, but like what things helped you, or maybe was there an exercise or a practice that I suggested to you that was like, yeah, that really did make a difference?
You The thing that stands out to me was you had suggested I write a letter to our embryo. And it was hard because we had two embryos and I had to choose. We had to choose. My husband and I had to choose.
Mm,
And it's really a hard choice.
yeah.
Agon- I agonized over it, and it felt um it felt like I was picking favorites, right? Like they're already my kids and I was picking my favorite.
Oh,
Um but yeah, I we had already chosen. We had uh two different grades of embryos, and we had
okay.
chosen the highest grade.
Hmm.
And so I was writing a letter to that embryo right after our phone call, our meeting. And honestly, looking back at that letter, it just brings me so much joy. I get tears in my eyes because I called him our little light. We knew it was a male. I called him our little light, and I just wrote this letter to him welcoming him into our family with open arms. And what shifted for me in that session was I had done so well. I felt like through IVF, I was just like, everything's fine, everything's pretty great. I'm just staying positive. And then a few days before the transfer, I got really nervous because you know how much goes into the transfer. You know how you feel. You are doing all these shots. You're going down to get blood work every day. I mean, it's such a huge commitment. You just want it to be successful. And more than that, you don't want to lose this embryo. You want to see what this embryo is going to be. You want to meet this baby.
Yeah.
And this child. So I think all of it just became really overwhelming. And so that's when I reached out to you, and you were so gracious and met with me kind of on short notice. Usually I'm not like that. I'm more of a planner, but yeah, but that's, I feel like that's what shifted for me, was instead of white knuckling it, really feeling like I could just let go and let this little embryo decide if he was going to be in our family or not. And that's what I came to the realization of during our session, and then with writing the letter to him.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I just want to say one other thing. You know, like I had alluded to, I have a therapist. She's so wonderful. She has gotten me through so much in the past 4 years. And I've learned so much and I've grown so much. But she has never gone through IVF. And so, and while she has had her own journey, and that has been really beneficial for me to hear and lean on her, and you know, kind of, and you just don't want to feel alone in all this motherhood journey. But I feel like I wanted to talk to somebody who had been through it, who knew what this felt like down to her core. You knew what it felt like.
Oh, thank you, Abbey. Oh my gosh. Make me cry. I treasure our letters too. I wrote a few of them, and it's a really magical time. And so when you entered into your transfer day, can you remember kind of how were you feeling? Were you feeling like a real peace? Can you take me back to that?
Oh, I was still kind of nervous, but I did feel a sense of peace. You know, your inner knowing.
Yeah.
Really tapped into that, and just I just knew that if this being was supposed to be in our family, he would. I was still nervous. I mean, my husband.
Of course.
So we drive from Fort Collins down to Littleton, and I'm pretty sure I made him listen to NSYNC the entire way down there.
Wait, NSYNC?
Yes.
I love it. What song was it?
Oh, I don't know. Bye, bye, bye. Or
oh my gosh.
Like all of them, because I just needed to bring the nerves down a little bit. And
key tip, listen to something that lights you up, gives you that just feel good feeling.
Yeah.
The whole day, every 2 weeks.
Day. Yes. And when I came home, you had given me this tip: come home, relax, watch something funny, lighthearted. What I did, I watched some comedy thing on Netflix.
Good. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's so beautiful. And so bring us up to speed to this little one that nuzzled in on your transfer day on Halloween.
On Halloween. Yeah, so he's here, not without his own journey. I mean, his story has just been one to tell.
Yeah, he's 3 months old now, but tell us
now.
at 20 weeks, what happened? What were you diagnosed with?
Yeah, so at 20 weeks, I was diagnosed with a vasa praaevia, and that was found at the anatomy scan. Luckily, we were at the maternal fetal medicine doctor, and she diagnosed it. And I didn't realize this, but vasa praaevias are more common with IVF pregnancies, according to her. I don't know what the actual data is, but she said that she sees them a lot more with IVF pregnancies. And
can you share what that is a little bit? Just what that is.
Sure.
For some people, it might not be like, what is vasa praaevia?
Yeah, so it's not to be confused with a placenta previa, which is different. So essentially what mine was I had a placenta that was bilobed, and I had a lobe on the front portion of my uterus and a lobe on the back portion, and it was connected by a vessel. And that vessel traveled really close to my cervix. And that vessel was his vessel on his side. And since it was exposed, if there was any significant amount of pressure on it, or changes with, my cervix or anything like that, it could have ruptured. And that would have been life threatening to him. So, I mean, he was perfect. I mean, he was great. He was just hanging out. Everything was great. But I knew at that 20-week scan, they had prepared me that the recommendation is between 30 and 32 weeks, you go into the hospital and you are hospitalized until you deliver between 34 and 37 weeks via C-section.
Because of when potential contractions could happen.
Yeah, they're monitoring you for contractions, any changes with him, any sign of distress. And then, I mean, if anything goes wrong there, I mean, you're in the OR immediately. Yeah. I mean, I had like it wasn't a PICC line, but something really similar to that in my arm for a month because they needed quick access. Yeah, it was really hard. It's really hard when you have a little one at home. And my husband, bless his heart, I mean, he went through it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I know, just getting a picture in my mind of you have like a 3-year-old at home who turned 4, right? When you were in the
While I was in the hospital. Yeah, we had a little party for him at the hospital.
Oh. And then didn't you have experienced like another family loss?
Yeah, we lost my husband's father 6 days before our little boy was born. It was just a really, really difficult time. And I think honestly, it has traumatized me more than I can kind of, grapple with right now, because I'm trying to focus on my little boy and my little boys and just experiencing life with them. And I'm sure it's something I will fully process at one point, but yeah, it was really traumatic. So I had a lot of support, but also, I mean,
yeah, you're going through IVF. Getting through that is like one hurdle, right? Then you're like throwing another hurdle in the hospital, and you had him 5 weeks early, right?
5 weeks early. So yeah, I had told myself, I admitted myself at 31 weeks, and I just told myself I'm 4 weeks and I'm done. Like, I can't be in here till 37. I can't be away from my other son. So we did a C-section at 35 and 1. He came out. I mean, he was okay, but I didn't share this with you before. He had some respiratory issues and was in the NICU for 3.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So he was intubated and then was on a CPAP and then high flow, low flow oxygen.
Oh, wow.
He's doing really great now.
Yeah.
But I just kept thinking, like, when can this just be done? Can we just go home and be a family?
Wow. And so, oh my goodness, thank you for sharing all of that. And then I know you still have one embryo, which is to be decided what you're going to do. And for, many who are in this situation, I mean, again, changing your mind, making shifts, like you and I can relate to that, right? Like you might have one plan in your mind, but for all that you've gone through, it kind of makes you question, can I handle this again? Do I want to go through this again? And
exactly.
these challenges, these questions are hard, right? To face.
Yeah. And I honestly, when we had chosen that we were going to transfer the higher grade embryo, I hate saying that, but what it is, I just, in my mind, I had thought you're going to give both of them a chance. And I had honestly contemplated transferring them both at the same time so I didn't have to choose. But Dr. really suggested against it. And I'm glad I took his advice, because who knows what would have happened. And I wanted to give them both a chance. In my head, I wanted to give them both the best chance possible. And so I think going through all of this, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this one more time, just preparing myself for that. After everything that had transpired in the hospital, with me being there for a month and then a 3.5 week NICU stay, I'm just like, I mean, both my husband and I we're just like, we can't do this again. And I think of a vasa previa happening again are very slim,
Mm.
but
Wow.
you lose control. You don't have control over that. You don't know what's going
Mm-hmm.
to go. We just want to prioritize our two little boys,
Yeah.
and I want to enjoy all the moments with them. You know, pregnancy, even leading up to the transfer, I was really nauseous, and those IVF meds made me sick. And then I was sick until 21 weeks. And
Oh,
I couldn't enjoy things. I couldn't enjoy life.
yeah.
I feel like I
Mm.
missed out on a lot because I was so sick, just every day trying to just get through. So yeah,
You're
I really
prioritizing your joy.
prioritizing my joy and knowing that it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
And again, this is another thing that I think I just have to work through is, you know, what does this mean saying goodbye to this other embryo, and how can I say goodbye to it?
Mm-hmm.
And just know that it's her life or her existence is honored, her being is honored. And how are we
Mm-hmm.
going to honor that? Are we going to donate it to research, another couple? What are we going to do?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's such a personal decision. I honor
Yeah.
you and your husband like deciding that. Those are really important things to consider. And oh my goodness. I just love this conversation. Like I appreciate you opening up and you're helping a lot of people. I mean, I appreciate just reaching out and like for anyone who might be listening and like feeling in that struggle or letting the anxiety or the nerves like get the best of them, like any advice or like things you would suggest to women who are in this place of like wanting to get to where you're at, having some little ones with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say lean on your support team, lean on your
Mm-hmm.
significant other, your spouse. My husband is my rock. I just obviously could have done it without him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, lean on those who will be there to listen to you, to support you. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've walked with my friend, just, telling her my thoughts and fears. My therapist, my
Mm-hmm.
my mom, um, and you. I mean, reaching out to those who've been through it before, who know how it feels, and sharing your thoughts and fears, because it's really important to name your fears. It's really important because I think, an outsider looking in can say, okay, those fears are valid, but also let's talk through it. Let's
Mm-hmm.
actually dwindle it down to what does this actually amount to, and is this legit? And so I would say just lean on those who you trust, who know, love you, and have got your back.
So good, Abby. Oh my gosh. Thank you for opening up and sharing so much of your story and letting us in.
Yeah.
It's in these
Yeah.
sharing of these stories that we can really help span this conversation. That, people are not alone. There's so many going
Yeah.
through fertility challenges.
Yeah. And no two stories are the same. So
No.
just remember that your story is going to look completely different than someone else's. But guess what? That's your story. And it's unique to
Mm-hmm.
you. And that's to be honored and cherished. And there can be a lot of comparison in this journey too. And that can steal our joy. So just knowing that your journey is your journey, and clinging to the hope that, this could happen for you someday. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I look at my little boy. His name is Hank, and actually his middle name is Steven. He's named after my father-in-law who we lost. Um, I just look in his face and his eyes, and I just think, how is this real? How are you here? He is a miracle. He's so perfect and so beautiful. And even at the 2 a.m. feedings, or when I'm so tired, I just smell him. I look at his like little peach fuzz hair and think, you're here. You're here. You're in our family. And I just tell him all the time how grateful I am that he's here and he's chosen us.
True. They choose us, don't they?
They choose us. Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, it's a wild ride, but so worth it. So worth it.
Mhm.
For these little beings that, decide to come into our lives. So I
Wow.
appreciate the work that you're doing. I
Thank
just
you.
think that there's not enough focus on the emotional side, the mental side of this. And
Mhm.
it's it's just such a necessary thing that women who are going through this focus on taking care of themselves
Mhm.
emotionally, mentally, and knowing that it's okay to reach out
Yeah.
for help, to say that this is a lot
Yeah.
and I'm scared, I'm nervous, all of it.
Mhm.
But that's, yeah, I'm just so grateful for what you offer.
Thank you. You're exactly like who I created these services for, to help, writing the book, starting the podcast, all of this is like to support women like exactly yourself. Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I received this. And for anyone else who's listening and, want to get some support, like with the transfer prep sessions or more coaching, like I'm here for you. And because like Abby, it's because of you. Like I started this transfer prep offering, and
Because my
it's
procrastination.
it's been an incredible offering for
Oh,
individuals who really don't have to struggle as they're navigating this path, getting close to transfer. So thank you
yeah.
so much, and
Yeah.
can't wait to meet you in person, hopefully one day.
Yes, I hope the same thing. Thank you so much
Yes,
for letting
thank
me share
you.
for free.
Of course. Thank you so much, Abby. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.